Hello, everybody from this corner of the world. It's Hitchin today, and it's a wonderful day. I just thought it would be a good occasion to go through the top 5 this week. First of all, we have to stop, don't we, on the massive game at the Etihad, Manchester City, Spurs. There's so much to talk about it. The first thing to say is that the fans were absolutely amazing. The noise in the Etihad was just something I hadn't heard before. And I know that after 10 minutes of the game, when it was just going crazy with 2-1, I think it was at that point, basically Mauricio Pochettino looked at Pep Guardiola, and Pep Guardiola looked at Mauricio Pochettino, and they were like, what the hell is going on? It was a game in which the emotions took over. There was a plan. It was a similar plan in a way to what we saw in the first leg from Spurs' point of view, to try to defend in a medium block and counter-attack. For Manchester City, already the change of instead of two holding midfielders, just having one with De Bruyne in the side, with Bernardo Silva back in the side as well. All that just meant that, of course, they had to attack, and they were going on the attack. But the coaches said that from that point on, from the 2-2, it was really about keeping track of the emotions. So if the team was on a high, running around, rushing, they had to show calmness. And vice versa. If there was a point where things were dropping, they would have to just cheer them up. It was all about emotions, not so much about tactics, even though there was a lot of swap of positions. And then at the end, a centimetre made the difference. And that's the first point I wanted to make. If Bernardo Silva had one step back instead of being where he was, he wouldn't have been offside. Now, I think the Spurs players and coaches realized that something was going on very quickly, because both Bernardo Silva and Kun Agüero did not celebrate the goal. And because they thought perhaps something like that, an offside had taken place. So they went on a high, Manchester City, and it was a massive low, of course, when it got confirmed, when VAR confirmed that, yes, he had been offside. Another thing to say about that and VAR, the reason why I'm not convinced about it is because we had determined that it will only affect games in a clear and obvious situation. And offsides that are marked by 1 centimetre is not clear and obvious. So are we allowing machines to determine the outcome of games? But quite clearly, it's where we're going, so we're all going to have to accept that. It was cruel from Manchester City's point of view, and it doesn't mean, in my eyes, that they are not going on the right path. I think Manchester City have got lessons to learn. They're still in that period in which they lose and they win, especially in knockout competitions. 2 years of fantastic football, 2 years of breaking records in the Premier League suggest that it's the strongest team in England for the last 2 years. In knockout competitions, a centimetre can make the difference. When they say that they're not ready to win, when Pep Guardiola says that, I think what he means is that it's a team still trying to find out how to play these moments, having the luck on their side, instead of not having it on their side, and being able to get a defeat not to affect them as much as this one has. Because, of course, after this was another defeat, actually, it was 4-4. But after this game, a lot of people are questioning the record of Guardiola abroad, in Europe, the defensive system of Guardiola, all those things, because, of course, we just look at the result, we just look at who was knocked out, and then say, what's wrong with you? It's all wrong with you. Not just a bit, it's all wrong with you. It was 4-4, and I think if Kun Agüero had scored a penalty, we may have had another story. But in front, they had a fantastic, amazing, and admirable Spurs. That will be my second point. Spurs were just amazing. They were strong. They never gave up, even though in the second half, quite clearly, it felt like the defenders did not want the ball. And of course, if you cannot build from the back, if you cannot hold the ball, if you cannot absorb pressure, then makes life very difficult for everybody. Because to start with, the defensive line goes too deep, and then the gaps start appearing with the midfield and the attack, and then it becomes much, much harder to attack. But when they had the chances in the first two shots on goal, there were goals. Son was is just at a completely different level that we've ever seen him. No Harry Kane, no Eric Dyer, no Wings, no Sergio Rey. There's so many players that could have started that game and were not there, and Spurs competed and competed and competed. The belief is there. The bravery was there for most of the time. The fact that actually they felt they would have a chance was there too. And then there was the Llorente moment. So he scores, and he's like, I don't know how that went in exactly. But he kept talking to everybody, to his teammates, and said, don't worry, they won't disallow it. They won't disallow it. No, they're not going to disallow it. Trying to convince himself out loud more than anybody else. But he also felt that, and players think like that a lot of the time, he felt that the destiny had something like this prepared for him, that he actually had been in a Europa League final with Marcelo Bielsa and Athletic Bilbao, and they failed, they didn't win, Atletico Madrid did, and that stuck in his mind. At some point, the gods of football will give me something back. That's what he was thinking, and that's what he got. So he got the, even though he hasn't played a lot, and it's very, very hard to actually stay at the competitive level that you require when you're not playing that much. Even so, he knew his moment would arrive. His moment did arrive, and he scored a fantastic, that clumsy, but fantastic goal for the history of Spurs. For Mauricio Pochettino, I have the impression that a lot of things change at this moment. Just at the moment where Bielsa says that the Sterling goal is not a goal, at that particular moment, a lot of things change. I think that he will probably feel that, all right, let's keep going at this. Let's keep going with this club. Let's keep push them on. Now let's get everybody on board. Let's get the support that he needs, and let's keep pushing. Let's keep pushing, because there is more at a time. Perhaps it's the second season that most people would say, no, that's it. You're taking the best out of this side. But look at him, still getting more of it. But of course, we're analysing all this on the fact of 1 centimetre, and it's fair to do so. But at the same time, you have to say Spurs, with less resources than anybody in the Premier League, or the top teams in the Premier League anyway, they managed to get to semi-finals of the Champions League, which makes it absolutely historical. I have to thank here Jesus Perez, his assistant, because he came over the day after to Hitchin for a fundraising event for Beaglesware United, and that was the day after. And he brought Miguel D'Agostino, the other assistant, and Tony Jimenez, the goalkeeper coach, which I didn't expect. So it was fantastic. Great to see Gustavo Poyet there. Great to see Edu Rubio and Pedro Martinez, who also came with me, and a lot of people from the club and others, and Spurs fans, who I think had a great night. And we raised good money for the club. So, by the way, we're just having the best season ever at Beaglesware United. So, happy days. Let's not go away from the Champions League, because I spoke to Jordi Cruyff for the Football Daily podcast for the BBC, and we discussed two things really, to come on the back of the semi-finals lineup. One is that there are three teams that have been affected by Johan Cruyff greatly in the semi-finals of the Champions League, and it's all bad Liverpool basically, Spurs included, Ajax and Barcelona more commonly known. And I discussed with Jordi what was the thing that made Johan different. And of course, he tried to explain that he set up a philosophy that had to do with the ball, with possession, with being protagonist. But also I added something else, which I discussed this with Jordi himself and with Pep Guardiola in another interview we did, the three of us, which was that he made you think differently. There were times where Pep Guardiola will be on the pitch and think, what will Johan Cruyff do here? Which is a way of saying, how can we think differently about what we're seeing? That's another massive thing that Johan Cruyff has added to the mind of some of these coaches. And I added Spurs because, obviously, with the success of Pep Guardiola, that style was guaranteed the confidence of the owners and the decision makers. Okay, if you can win that way, let's do it. So, of course, Bayern went for it. Ajax has continued because they always believe in it, and will continue being the way of portraying the football that Ajax not only represent a way of football, it's a way of living as well. Amsterdam and everything that has to do with it, the freedom of speech, freedom of behavior, and freedom in football as well. All that has to do with Johan Cruyff and with being Dutch and with being from Amsterdam. All that is also influence of Johan Cruyff. In the case of Spurs, I remember that in the book that we did with Pochettino, Brave New World, he asked for two pictures to be included, one with Johan Cruyff and one with Sir Alex Ferguson, because these are massive influences in his life. In the case of Johan Cruyff, is somebody that did things his own way, and sometimes won, sometimes lost, but did things his own way, and also thought differently about the game and was very offensive, etc. So Pochettino has taken a leaf out of that book for sure. One quick thing to say about Ajax is that a lot of people are now making a story, of course, about the academy and how good is the academy and look what's happened through the academy. But it's been 20 years in which nothing has happened. So we shouldn't exaggerate that, because I think it's the perfect storm. A bunch of very talented young players like De Ligt and the young veterans like Tadic and Blin, and just a style. Those three things is the cocktail that made the success this year, and of course 2 years ago in the Europa League. But they haven't won the league in 5 years. They needed to change something, and they have done, and it has worked for them. Let's not put too much emphasis in cup competitions, and let's not make huge stories out of that, because 1 centimeter could be the difference, and the perfect storm could also be the explanation for a fantastic season of Ajax. One quick story about transfer news is that the Pogba story continues. The Pogba rumours continue, of course. The Real Madrid want him. They will do a big effort for him. I said already it will cost 500 million euros to get him to Real Madrid, and Real Madrid cannot afford that. But we keep hearing, and that's the transfer fee and the wages and the commission. And what we're hearing, of course, is that more stories recently related to his contract. Everybody's going to lose money because Manchester United have not been knocked out of the Champions League. If they don't get into the top 4, players will lose money as well compared to what they could earn if they would go top 4. So we're talking about players like De Gea, we heard, and Pogba, they will demand a different contract. And I think that's where the story is coming from, the idea that Pogba, who knows Manchester United won't sell, would like to get another big contract. If he's going to be the star, he's got to be paid accordingly. I think that's what his entourage is feeling at the moment. Last one, it has to do with the Champions League as well, and it has to do with the best player in the world. That's Messi. I've just saw in, I think it's Football Funny's tweet saying that with Messi, his teammates, his number 9s that play with him, double his numbers, or at least get, 25, 30, 40% more goals with Messi than without Messi. When Messi's not there, they struggle scoring. When Messi's there, they score a lot. And it's normal, because he has become a player that affects games like no other player in the world, affects them in a particular time. So it's not like he hasn't become the complete midfielder that wants to be part of the build-up at all times, at all cost. No, he's just choosing his moments. And a moment of Messi is pure gold, and a moment of Messi will guarantee you an action, an offensive action that could be converted into goal, his own or somebody else's. That's the new Messi, if you like. That's perhaps the new way of looking at him. In the past, he will disconnect himself if he didn't get the ball a lot of the time. Now, not only he's resting more than ever, not been left home, so he misses some of the games, but also during the game he has done this all the time, actively resting, if you like, walks around until his moment arrives. So I think we've seen the most lethal Messi ever, because without touching the ball as much as he used to, he's still making a huge impact in the game. And what a game against Liverpool. I'll say one thing just for now, and we will talk more about it closer to the date, but if Barcelona defend like they did and play like they did for the first 15 minutes against Manchester United at the Camp Nou, Liverpool will kill them. it would have been Mane, Salah, 2 goals, and the tie over within 15 minutes. Because after that, you cannot score that much against Liverpool. So they'll have to be very focused against a Liverpool side that, for me, it's ideally built to win cup competitions, big cup competitions like the Champions League. If I'm not mistaken, they won with Klopp every knockout competition they played in Europe, which is unbelievable. They don't make mistakes, they defend better, and they just go boom, boom, boom. They attack you. They don't need to dominate. They don't need to play wonderful football. So Barcelona will have to be at the very, very best, and so would Messi. I'm going to be in both games, so I cannot wait. For now, we'll leave it there. I'm flying to Barcelona in about 2 hours, so better leave. See you later. Bye-bye. Bye.